and but that stopped for some reason. I think it may have been because more of our army were joining, were going away as UN peacekeeping forces, and I think it was part of a, more or less a cutback too, because you were using fuel on these parades, and you know I mean, there was cutbacks all over the place, but I think they they were keeping their the fuel, and they were economizing. So instead of showing a big parade, this is the army and this is all the equipment we have, they were keeping it in well, of course, in 1969, 1970, the troubles in the north, started up again, and that was always, there was always tension there, uh, with the troubles in the north,
So it
because, excuse
affected
me,
you.
I'm sorry.
It affected you in Dublin, in the south.
Oh, certainly did. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they brought their bombs to Dublin, and in 1974. In fact, I can say I owe my life to a postman colleague of mine. Uh, the evening the bomb went off in Talbot Street, I was in that street walking home, and I happened to be looking in to a shoe shop window. I was thinking of buying a pair of shoes, and further up the street was where I was going to buy a pair of jeans. A Guinea's shop, and Connolly's was the shoe shop, and Guinea's was the where they sold drapery and clothing and whatever. And I was looking in the shoe shop window, and I heard beep beep, and looked around, and this friend of mine who was delivering mail to Connolly Station, uh, and he said to me, "I'm going up past your bus stop," because I hadn't got a car at that time. "Would you like a lift up? Would you like a lift up?" And I said, "Oh, that'd be great." And we were about halfway between Talbot Street and Houston Station when we heard this thud. That's all I can describe it as. And geez, what was that? Uh, and when we got up near Guinness's, the uh, the black smoke was rising. And it was only later on, maybe an hour later, when I got to see the news on the TV, that a certain amount of people had been killed, and children and babies were involved in these bombings. Absolutely horrific. You know, but I went in the next morning to work. Of course, you couldn't get near, uh, you know, the street that I'd walked up, because that's the way I used to walk down to work as well. I had to, go around another avenue, and because they had it cordoned off, and they were still cleaning up and the whole lot. And when I met the man, I went over and shook his hand, and I said, "You know what?" I said, "I could have been standing outside that shop, and the car bomb had gone off right at Guinea's, the second shop I was going to go into, in a matter of 20 minutes after I got there, or after I left there, I should say."
Wow.
So that was a close call for me.
I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, when you go back to Dublin now, there must be big changes there.
Actually, I went back for my father's funeral in 2004, and I was just there for 5 days. And in 2004, we said, let's put some money aside and go back to Dublin in 2005. But unfortunately, my father passed away, and we went for that, which sort of cut into our savings a little bit. But yeah, the traffic was horrific. Uh, of course, we weren't there on a vacation or anything near it, anything like it. We were there for my father's funeral, and basically that's we were, what we were concentrating on, and trying to cope with. But yeah, the traffic basically was the big thing we noticed, and the it seemed that a lot more people were throwing their garbage on the ground as well. Uh, from the time we left, not that it was always pristine, or the cleanest city in Europe, or anything like it, but it just seemed that there seemed to be more garbage around everywhere, and a lot more what do they call them? Ireland opened the floodgates a few years ago, maybe 98. About 2 years before we came here, they said we let any we have to take in refugees, with the result that thousands and thousands and thousands of refugees came to Ireland in a few years, which now means that there are ethnic groups from every country in Europe and Africa and places like that right now in basically in Dublin. They didn't like the country so much. I don't know why. They wanted to stay in Dublin. So we had that to cope with.
Okay, so it's not a good change necessarily.
No. I would say no, it's not.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Well, we've talked a little bit about when you came here and your family getting split apart.
Yeah.
I don't know if we covered, why did you decide to emigrate? Just because you liked it here?
Oh yes, I was going to refer to that before, and I went off on a different tangent, which I tend to do. Yeah, when we came here in '87, myself, Breed, and the three kids, we loved it here. We thought it was great, and in fact, when I went to Germany, I was in Germany and France with a singing group that I had in Dublin. We were called Shelta. And there was Damien, Teresa, and myself. We went on a tour of 14 or 19, no, I'm sorry, 17 places in 19 days we went to. And in Germany. And I couldn't believe how Fairfield was, or Connecticut, where we are now, is very much like Germany, and especially the forestry area like Bavaria. There are so many mature trees grown on the side of the road everywhere, and it's like going down unless you're in the big cities, of course, Stuttgart and whatever. But the Bavarian countryside was absolutely fabulous, and I couldn't believe, how close it resembled Fairfield, because I'd been here in '84 and '87, and I went to Germany, as I say, in I think it was 96, 95, and I said, this like some of the Autobahns were like 95, but they were traveling a lot quicker over there, of course, to do 100 miles an hour just to go to the store, I think, over there. But on the Autobahns, but the towns and the countryside and villages were, I couldn't get over how closely the streets resembled Fairfield or Milford or Westport, even.
Did you think about going there?
To Germany? No.
No. Okay.
A lot of good few of my friends did, and in fact, one of my cousins still lives over there. I think. I can't think of her name now, but anyhow, she's still living over there. Has been over there for a long time, and loves it over there.
And when you came here, did you come by plane?
We did. Otherwise, we would have had to swim. No, between Ireland and England, they're so close. There is a ferry service and there is an airport service or planes. But coming here, I know there are ships obviously come into New York every so often, because the fellow I know from the post office, he said an uncle of his had his car shipped over from America to Ireland. That's what it was. And I know there's obviously trade as regards ships going back and forward, whatever, but no passenger ferries as far as I know. So yeah, the only way to get here basically is to fly, and we flew Aer Lingus. Yeah.
Did you fly into JFK?
Into JFK, yeah.
And roughly, what did it cost you per ticket? Do you have any remembrance?
5 of us was about $2,500.
Oh, that's not bad.
About 500 each.
And what did you bring with you when you came?
We brought we had bought a trunk, uh, a fairly big one. You know, it was about 2 feet high, 3 feet wide, and about 2.5 feet deep. So it's fairly big. You know, with all the stuff we put in there, there's no way you could lift it. Uh, Basically, photographs. We had given away a lot of the stuff that we had. Uh, Not an awful lot of it was brand new. So we got rid of what we wanted to get rid of, and then basically because as I said, Breed has 5 sisters, and they they've all families, and they took some ornaments that we didn't bring, some tools that we didn't bring, that type of thing. Um, we brought some videos, a video which I found the other day, myself and a friend of mine, uh, from I believe it was 2000, not 2001, 1991. Uh, the, when they were making the movie Far and Away, I think it was called. Nicole Kidman and the other fella, I can never think of his name. She was married to him for a while.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, that's the guy. I always have Richard Gere in my head, and I know it's not Richard Gere, so that's why I didn't say Richard Gere. They were making the movie in Kerry, and somebody from the Wolf Tones, one of the Wolf Tones, knew somebody that was second cameraman or something, and he came along to the pub where we had this large table, and about 25 musicians sat around the table and played, and we all, went back and forth, different songs here. And I found the tape the other day, and I brought it to get it changed over so I could look at it here, and it's still in good shape. It's not the best, but I was slightly surprised by some of the fellas that I hadn't even realised were on it, that were on it, and so it was nice watching that. So we did bring a few videotapes, lots of photographs, as I said.
You said ornaments.
A few suitcases, ornaments. No, no. My mother loved collecting ornaments. She had a couple of small Statue of Liberties that her sister, my aunt, had brought back for her, and small things like small statues, and of course the religious statues, and small bottles of holy water from Knock and Lourdes and Medjugorje, and the friends of my mother's had been over, and brought her back little mementos of where they were, rosary beads, scapulars, things like that, and small little knickknacks that we brought, but certainly not all Christmas ornaments. No, just a mixture of everything.
Okay. And can you remember what your first purchase was when you got here?
I think it was a 12 pack of Bud. As far as I know, it was a 12 pack of Bud. Yeah, I should have got the 30 pack because would have been cheaper to buy the 30 pack. But anyway, I think it was Budweiser actually. Yeah.
Okay. What were your first impressions of the United States when you were here to live here?
After waiting 12 years, I knew this already, this information that I'm just going to relate to you now, that my brother had waited so long for his green card, which meant you were basically in limbo. You couldn't open a bank account, you couldn't buy a car, you couldn't get an apartment, you couldn't, you were basically in limbo. You could work because you had your official passport stamped, but you hadn't got your green card. So, with the result, I didn't start work straight away because I'm just lazy. But no, my wife and my daughters basically started, Elaine, I should say, started work straight away, but couldn't. Whoever they were working for couldn't pay them.
Wow.
They kept the money until we were officially here. So for 16 weeks, they kept the money, and Breda went to work, and Elaine went to work. And after the 16 weeks, of course, they paid them all back, all the money that they owe them. But,
Where did you stay?
well, as I said, there's 6 of us here, so I stayed in my sister's Mary's for a couple of months, maybe 6 or 8 weeks, and then in France for about the same period of time before we got our own place.
Wow. So you're here in Fairfield.
Yeah, yeah, in Royal Avenue and Melville Avenue. Yeah.
And who met you when you came here? Did you, when you arrived at JFK with your family?
My brother-in-law Fran's husband Frank, had has one of those SUVs, and we all piled into that.
What was it like on the day that you left Ireland?
Very sad.
I would imagine.
Daniel, the circumstances were when my mother passed away in '98, we went back to where she had lived, to that house to live. Because we knew the paperwork was coming near being ready. We thought it might be a year, but it turned out to be 2 years because we were there in '98 and we didn't come here till 2000. But Daniel had basically made a whole new circle of friends. We had lived in Tala for 15 years, and now we're back in Ballyfermot for 2 years, and he's made all these friends, and he's gone to the school with them, and he plays soccer with them, and he goes fishing with them, and he goes kiss chasing with them. And apparently we came here on a Wednesday, which was a school day, but I'm sure there must have been 25 kids of his age turned up outside the house to say goodbye to him. And it was heartbreaking, because, well, doubly so because we were leaving Karen behind, But for him, Elaine, didn't seem to be as affected as Daniel was and his friends. It was a nice sunny day. It was a nice day to go flying.
And did you fly from Dublin Airport?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And did your family come with your family who were still in Ireland?
They came to the airport and wished us all the best. And lots of hugs and kisses and tears.
Wow. Okay, just looking here. Now, you came here planning to stay.
Yeah.
Once you were here, did you ever think about going back?
No. We sort of made a deal with ourselves that we'd first of all try and become a citizen, because that's where Karen comes into the picture, or becoming a citizen brings Karen into the picture more so. Because once you're a citizen, you can then, like I said, she goes on to a different category of a petition for, a relative. So she goes into a different category. And I'm told, actually, you were there yourself when the man in the court down in Lafayette, in Bridgeport, when the woman behind us, or some person behind us, asked if you have a green card and you want to bring a member of your family over, what's the difference between just a green card and having a citizenship? And he said it reduces the time dramatically. Right now I want to find out. That's what I'm working on now. How dramatically does it decrease the amount of time you have to wait? And I will let you know when that happens. But we said we'd 5 or 7 years we would shoot for. But I think it was 2 years ago, we bought the house in Bridgeport, and we like it up there in Wayne Street. It's a nice house. There's a nice big yard, and Breda loves it.
That's good.
Yeah.
And what about the citizenship process? You're alluding to that. What was that like for you?
It to me, it's part of the process. The time went very quick. The 5 years went very quick. Unbelievably quick, to be honest with you. And I started the process, when I was 4.5 years, which was, 6 months ago. I'll be, no, not 6 months ago. Uh, I was 5 years here, or I will be 5 years. No, I was 5 years here last year. This is 2006. Yeah. So I started in October or November the year before. Put the application in for citizenship, and the the process was supposed to be on the November the 17th, and a couple of days before November the 17th, they wrote to me and said your appointment has been postponed. We'll write to you in the near future. And I said, oh, here we go again. Not expecting to hear, maybe 6 months have passed before I hear another word. But they wrote to me just around Christmas time and said it'll take place on the January the 27th, and we went to Hartford first, did the test, which wasn't bad. They ask you 10 questions. You have 100 questions to know the answers to, but they ask you 10 questions, and if you get 6, you're all set. And they ask you the same questions on that you filled in when you applied all them years ago to come here, and live, on your immigration application form.
What kinds of questions?
Uh, well, obviously your mother's maiden name. That was one of the first ones. Your age, your social security number, which we actually hadn't got well, we had a security number in Ireland, but the social security number here it seems to be more important, or more. There's a lot more stress put on your social security number and how valued it is to a person, and then if another person gets it, it can screw you up, your finances or whatever. But yeah, have you ever been involved in a legal organisation? Are you a habitual drunkard? Was another question. Were you ever in the Communist Party? Have you been arrested recently? All that type of thing.
Do they test you on your knowledge of the United States government?
Yes, that's what the 100 questions I was referring to was about the history and government of the United States. For instance, uh, who's the father of the United States, George Washington, who helped the slaves, free the slaves, Abraham Lincoln. What was the name of the ship that the Pilgrims came on? That type of thing. There was 100 questions, and if they were going to ask you 10, and they asked you, what's the if the president dies, who's elected president, or if the president and the vice president dies, who becomes president? That type of thing.
Just to give you an idea, we can put another one in, but I just want to let you know we got about 5 on this one.
Okay. Okay. Well, on the day you became a citizen, how did you feel?
I felt, it might sound stupid, but I felt as if I'd just become a part of another country, a bigger country, a lot bigger than Ireland. It was very. I got a bit emotional, and all the people that were going up before me, I think there was about 60 or 70 people there. A lot of them had cameras and video. Some of them had video cameras, and they were taking. And when I shook the judge's hand, and she said, "Welcome to the United States and congratulations on being a citizen," I said, "Thanks very much, ma'am." And I sort of turned around, expecting someone to take me photograph, but nobody had a camera. But anyway, yeah, I did. It affected me. Uh, I've become a citizen of another country, and it's also going to help me, us, I should say, have Karen over and see what she makes of it.
And did you have to give up your Irish citizenship, or are you a dual citizenship?
I'm told I had to. Um, But my passport is in effect my Irish passport for another 10 years or 9 years, whatever, you know. So I'm still an Irishman.
Well, I think on that note, we can wrap up. Thank you very much for coming here today, Con. It was great.
You're very welcome.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I'd like to sing a couple of songs or say that poem for you.
We'll do that on another,
Okay.
another tape, but
Good.
just in terms of asking you questions, I think we'll wrap it up now.
I hope I answered your questions, and I hope I didn't confuse anybody with, you know, speaking too quickly or fast or you know, I hope I did all right, put it that way.
Okay, Con.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I was asked to do this little poem. It's one of Hilary's favourites. It's from the northern side of the border. Comes from Belfast, and I learned it from a fellow who was from the southern side of the border. He was from Cork, a fellow called Niall Ahern. And the poem is called The Ballad of William Bloat, which is usually followed by the Black Velvet Band, which we will do. But being from Dublin, I haven't got a great Northern Ireland or Belfast accent, as you know. But anyway, the poem is called The Ballad of William Bloat, and it goes something like this. In a mean abode in the Shankill Road lived a man called William Bloat. He had a wife, the bane of his life, who continually got his goat. So one day at dawn, with her nightdress on, he cut her bloody throat. With a razor gash, he settled her hash, and never was a crime so quick. And the steady drip on the pillow slip of her life's blood made him sick, and the pool of gore on the bedroom floor grew clotted cold and thick. But yet he was glad that he'd done what he'd had, as she lay there stiff and still. But the sudden awe of the angry law struck his heart with an icy chill, so to end the fun so well begun, he resolved himself to kill. So when he took the sheet off his wife's cold feet, and he twisted it into a rope, and he hung himself from the pantry shelf, 'twas an easy end, let's hope, for in the face of death with his last breath he solemnly cursed the Pope. But the strangest turn of the whole concern is only just beginning, for he went to hell, and she got well, and is still alive and sinning, 'cause the razor blade was British made, but the sheet was Irish linen. There you are. You want me to carry on? In a neat little town they call Belfast, apprentice to trade I was bound, and many's a happy Friday night sure I spent in that neat little town, till a sad misfortune came over me, which caused me to stray from the land, far away from my friends and relations, to follow the Black Velvet Band. Her eyes, they shone like diamonds, you would think she was queen of the land, and her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. As I went walking down Broadway, not intending to stay very long, well, I met with a frolicsome damsel as she came tripping along, and the watch she pulled out of her pocket and slipped it right into me hand. And the very next day that I met her, bad luck to our Black Velvet Band. Her eyes, they shone like diamonds, you would think she was queen of the land, and her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. For judge and jury next morning, well, the both of us did appear, and the gentleman claimed this jewellery, but the case against us proved clear. He said 7 long years penal servitude by down of Van Diemen's land, far away from my friends and relations, to follow the Black Velvet Band. Her eyes, they shone like diamonds, you would think she was queen of the land, and her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. So come on, you jolly young fellas, a warning take by me. Beware of those frolicsome damsels that are roaming along the highway, for they treat you to strong drink, Maria, till you are unable to stand. And before you know what you've done, me boys, well, you've landed in Van Diemen's Land. Her eyes, they shone like diamonds, you would think she was queen of the land. And her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. Yes, her eyes, they shone like diamonds, you would think she was queen of the land. And her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. There you go. Well, I was asked to do due to public demand. Is that what they say? My friend